Hey team, John here. I wanted to take 1 second before we start today's video just to give you a little context as far as what it is, because it's a little bit different. This is our second ever long form video. Earlier this week on Tuesday, I had the amazing opportunity to travel to Williamsburg, Kentucky, and to speak at University of the Cumberlands, to speak to about 200 to 300 of their students. And I'm very grateful that they invited me to come, and I'm super grateful that they allowed me to film the talk, and I'm super duper grateful that they're allowing me to share it with you now. A little warning, the quality is not blockbuster. It was filmed on just a little flip cam, kind of from the corner, so it's not, you know, producer type quality, but I am hoping that you'll give it a watch, and I hope that the quality of the message and the word that God gave me to speak to those students is kind of makes up for the poor quality of the video. Message is about, I think, 30 minutes or so. Hope you'll watch it, and I hope you'll let us know in the comments what you think. And also, if you are interested in having me or, you know, the Anima series come and speak at your school or at your church, there's a link down below where you can send us an email and maybe set something up. This is a message that I entitled, "What's My Calling?" done for about 200 to 300 university students at University of the Cumberlands. Big shout out to them, Williamsburg, Kentucky. Enjoy!
So, how's everybody doing? Oh, good. All right. As Abby said, my name is John, and I'm here to talk to you tonight. Just full disclosure, because I want to be super honest with you all, and I want you to be super honest with me tonight. Who's really hoping that we get out of here in time to watch the Kentucky-Kansas game? Yeah. I promise you, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best. Maybe not the whole game, but at least the second half and the first half and the whole second half. How about that? How about... Calipari thinks he's going to put two different starting squads together and just rotate. Oh, okay, that's not what we're talking about. Anyway, I want to first thank you all for coming tonight. I'm really excited to talk to you. I want to thank the university for having me. I want to thank Abby and Dean for setting this up. It's a real blessing for me to get out of the city sometimes. It can be real crowded in New York City, and it's nice to come out where I can breathe a little bit. That's very, very nice. So to give you a little context, a little more specific context on who I am, so that you can kind of understand what I'm going to talk about a little more, and so that I can get a little more context with you, I want to ask you a question, and then I'll tell you more about myself. And I want you to be totally honest with me. I will not be offended, and none of your teachers or people who work here are going to be offended either. I want you to raise your hand, because I understand these convocations, you have to go to a certain number of them to fulfill a credit. So I want you to be totally honest with me. Raise your hand, loud and proud, if you're here simply to fulfill a credit and you don't really care who I am. That's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Trust me, I get rejected daily at auditions. Trust me, I will not. Thank you. That helps. That helps. Because guess what? You are now my goal. By the end, I don't care if you care who I am, but you're at least going to leave me like, maybe I'm okay with going. But what's the score of the Kentucky game? That's what you'll be saying. So, to give you a little more specific context into who I am. People ask me, John, what do you do? And that's a really difficult question for me to answer, because most people, when you say, what do you do? I'm an accountant, I'm a chef, I'm a waiter. I don't know, only people that work in restaurants, apparently. And so, but for me, it kind of takes three parts. One, I'm an actor. I'm currently working on Broadway in the Broadway production of Mamma Mia. Some of you who saw the movie, it's not as bad as that. I hope, but I don't know, maybe it is. So I am an actor. I am also an author. I wrote my first book called Authentic Love, Everything I Learned About Jesus I Learned from a Child. And that came out, April of this year. And that book was a series, basically it's a memoir. I was a camp counselor working with kids ages 8 to 18. That was my summer job all throughout high school and college. For about 8 years, I worked with over 5,000 students. And after I finished all those years, I thought to myself, I've learned a lot from these kids. So what I did was about a year and a half ago, I wrote down everything I learned, sort of compiled it into this book, and you can purchase it in the back if you like. I don't really care if you do or not. I also have a blog that I keep, and I'm in the process of writing my second book right now, which is going to be called Created to Create, which is sort of a manifesto of human creativity, and talking about how creativity and art are essential in today's culture, especially for Christians and in the church. And then thirdly, I guess I would say I'm an artist. What you just saw was a video that a few friends and I made, and we started this thing called the Anima Series, which is a non-profit online production company, mainly on YouTube. And what we do is we create new videos and we release them every Friday. Some are spoken word videos like the one you just saw. Some are testimonial videos where people will share their story. Others are Q&A videos where people send us questions and things like that. So when people ask me what I do, it usually turns into about a 5-minute explanation like that. And they're like, hey man, we just met at this party and I just wanted to hear like what you do. I'm like, sorry, I went into too much detail maybe. And tonight, I want to talk to you about how I got there. How I got to this point. Because I'm 23 years old, and I feel like I'm beginning to figure out what I do. And I want to talk to you about how I started to figure that out, and how I've eventually come to figure that out. Because like many of you maybe in this room, I spent years, specifically in high school and college, trying to answer that stupid question, what is my calling? What is my purpose? Why was I put here on this earth? And many of us begin to ask that question, especially, trust me, once you graduate this place and you realize that you don't know what to do with your time. So before we start, one last thing. I want to tell you how I like to operate as a speaker, because I want to be here and hopefully provide you all some value tonight, maybe teach you something, encourage you in some way, and I'm hoping that you'll help me to do that. I hope I can help you, and you can help me, and I can help you help me by telling you this, if that makes sense. So as a speaker, I like to speak with a lot of energy. I dance and sing on stage for a living, so I like to bring the energy. And how you all can help me with that is if you bring some energy as well. So if I ask you a question like, how's everybody doing? If you could respond, that would be awesome. So how's everybody doing? Yeah. Okay, all right, yeah. All right. I'm waking up a little bit. And also, if I say anything that you're like, oh, that makes sense to me. Or like, oh, my heart just jumped. And it's not just because he's wearing stylish clothes that his fiancée picked out. She did a good job, huh? I think I look okay. I usually wear sweatpants everywhere. I wish I was still in college. But if I say something that makes sense to you and you're like, oh, yes, I needed to hear that tonight, or God just spoke to me through that, I want to hear it, like, yes, amen, that's good, all right? And you see, people, I was born in Chicago, and I live in New York. This is as far south as I go. Okay, so I'm expecting us to get a little Southern Baptist up in here. We're about to have some church or something. And last but not least, we are going to have some Q&A at the end. So if you do get any questions in your head, I want to bring you as much value as possible. So write them down, remember them, whatever. I want to pray real quick, and then we're going to dive in to some hopefully decent stuff. Setting the expectations low. Let's bow our heads, and if you're not one to pray, then just don't shout and embarrass yourself. Dear Lord, pray that you would speak through me tonight by the power of your Spirit, and that those who have ears to hear, would you let them hear. Amen. All right, if you have a Bible, please open it up. If not, don't worry about it, because we're only talking about 3 verses tonight. So if you don't even like the Bible, don't worry, you only have to endure 3 verses. It's like 56 words or something. Open it to Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. I'm going to read this out loud to you. It says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. No duh. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once, they left their nets and followed him. That's it, 3 verses. And what I want to do is we're going to walk through these 3 verses step by step, because I believe that these 3 verses are the key verses in the Bible for figuring out what your passion and calling are. If you don't believe me, I'm about to prove you wrong, sucker. So I want to go slowly, verse by verse. Verse 18. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. This is the phrase I want to focus on. They were casting a net into the lake. Here's why this phrase gives me pause. Is because Jesus hasn't called them to anything yet. They haven't received their calling. In my Bible, which is the NIV translation, the New International Version, it gives this heading. It says, Jesus calls his first disciples. Meaning that, to the reader, we're supposed to understand, okay, Jesus is about to send some people on a mission. But it says they were casting their nets into their lakes, meaning they were already doing something. Before they received their call, they were already doing something. They weren't waiting around. They weren't just sitting on the beach being like, man, when is that Son of God going to come and tell me what to do with my life? No, no, no. They were already doing something. And I think that's a problem for so many of us, is that we want to know what our purpose is. We want to know what our passion is. So we just sit and we wait, and we expect some sort of angel to come down and whisper in our ear and tell us, go to Africa, my son, and save the children. And for some of us, maybe that happens, and if that's been your experience, then get on that plane, okay? But for me, that wasn't my experience, and I'm guessing that's probably not most people's experience in this room. We can't just wait around. We have to do something, because we get sort of bogged down with indecision. We don't know what to do with our lives, so we just wait. But you see, what this passage and what this verse specifically reminds me is that you might not always know what to do, but you can always do something. And I'm going to say that again, because if that didn't speak to anybody, then I'm just going to leave. You might not always know what to do, but you can always do something. Oh, there was a that means I'm going to keep going. Somebody just saved y'all. I'm going to listen to me for another couple minutes at least. You might not know what your calling is yet, but you can't let that keep you from doing something now. Oh! Now we're here! You see, as I mentioned, I spent many years trying to figure out that question, like, God, what is my calling? What is my purpose? Why did you put me on this earth? And as a child, I was always starting things. I was always trying something. Before I could even read or write, and I was like, yay high. And for me, this is like 3. Okay, I was born 11 pounds, 11 ounces, full head of hair. I could sit up on the day I was born. Okay? But before I could even read or write, I would stand next to my mother at the computer and I would tell her stories and make her type them out. And we would write stories together. And then as I grew older and I got really interested in acting and performing, and as I also became a Christian, I got really scared because I knew I wanted to be a professional actor. I was like, I think I want to do this. But I've heard that there aren't many Christian actors and that the entertainment industry is really dark. So I got this idea. I said, I want to start this thing called the Actors Christian Association. And it'll be this community that all these Christian actors can come to, and we can have small groups before rehearsals and Bible studies. And so I tried to start that. And then later on in college, I was like, no, not just for actors. I want to start something for all Christian artists. So I started a website called Creators for the Creator, and it was basically going to be like LinkedIn for Christian artists. Like, if you're a photographer and, you need a model, but you only, you want to work with someone who's like looking to glorify God through their art, you just search on Creators for the Creator, and you find them, and it's like a networking thing. You see, I didn't know what my calling was yet at this point. I didn't know what to do, but I didn't let that keep me from doing something. And I'm hoping that someone here tonight who's like, I don't know what to do, you won't let that, when you leave here tonight, you won't let that cripple you from doing something now, because you can always do something. And let me warn you, before you start doing something, that you're probably going to face failure. You see, the disciples in this story faced failure. In Luke chapter 5, they tell the same story. In Luke chapter 5, it goes into a little bit more detail. And Peter tells Jesus, some of you are familiar with the story, Peter tells Jesus, we've been out all night and we haven't caught anything. So you see, these are two fishermen, and what I kind of draw from that is maybe they weren't even that good at this job. They didn't know what to do, but they were doing something, but they were failing at it. And that happens oftentimes when we just choose to do something. For me, it happened when I stood at that computer and I told my mom all those stories. We never once finished a book together. I went back and counted up, because she printed them all and saved them, obviously, because she's a loving mother. And I'm so resentful about that for some reason. And I counted, and we started over 30 books together from the time I was 3, and we never finished one. Now, I know you're going to say, John, you were 3, but I started writing when I was 3, and I published my first book when I was 22. It took me 19 years. I'm a failure, okay? Also, the Actors Christian Association, remember that? That was going to encourage all the actors in the entire world. Yeah, guess what that was? That was a college Bible study that I started that lasted about 5 meetings, and then no one showed up anymore. Failed! Creators for the Creator, I ran the website for about a year, and then I realized I didn't really know how to code, and I didn't know how to build a website. That failed too. You see, if you want to find your calling, failure is almost a prerequisite. Because it's in the middle of doing something that God is going to call you to do the thing. It's in the middle of doing something, God is going to call you to do the thing. And that's what we see in this story. When Jesus shows up and he says in verse 19, we're moving on to the second verse. Remember, there's only 3. We're 40% through this right now. He says, come, follow me. And we're going to return to those 3 words. Come, follow me, Jesus said. And I will send you out to fish for people. Now, this is a weird phrase. I don't think we realize how weird this phrase is because we hear it so much in church. And we read it so much in the Bible. But Jesus is talking about fishing for people, like putting hooks in mouths, okay? That's weird. And Jesus says a lot of weird stuff. He says, you are the salt of the earth, and remove the plank from your own eye, eat my flesh, and stuff like that. It doesn't really sound like a religious leader to me. But I think Jesus uses this phrase purposefully. You see, he's talking to fishermen, and he's saying, I'm going to send you out to fish for people. Because I believe what Jesus is saying to them is he's saying, I'm not necessarily going to change what you do. I'm going to change your reason for doing it. Because something we misunderstand about calling is we get so wrapped up in what. What we don't understand is your calling is not what you do. Your calling is why you do it. Anybody? Amen. Maybe. Don't just pity give it to me. If it speaks, it speaks. If it doesn't, then let it fly. Your calling is not what you do. It's your reason for doing it. And so when people ask me the question, what do you do, John? I always answer, well, I'm an actor, I'm an author, I'm an artist. But you see, to me, the much more interesting question is, John, why do you do it? Because the answer to that question is always the same. Whether I'm acting on stage, whether I'm writing a book, or whether I'm making a video, my reason for doing it is always the same. My reason for doing it is to provide for my family. My reason for doing it is to inspire other people. And my reason for doing it is to make manifest the glory of God in my life. Amen. Yes, amen. That's my reason for doing it. My reason for doing it is to introduce people to Jesus. My reason for doing it is to set people free. And what's interesting about this specific phrase in the Bible, and this is kind of a side note, so please bear with me, is that Jesus is talking to fishermen. And what's interesting is when you're fishing for fish, you're looking to catch things. That's why I have a net. But Jesus says, I'm teaching you to fish for people. And when you're fishing for people, you're actually looking to set things free. And so Jesus not only wants to change your reason for doing it, Jesus actually wants to turn that reason upside down. Because you see, as a fisherman, you should be looking to catch things. But he's saying, no, if you're going to be a fisherman for me, you're looking to set things free. As an actor, I should be seeking to get the spotlight. But as an actor for Jesus, I'm actually looking to be the spotlight so that I can shine the light on Him and turn people towards Him. Not glory for myself, but for Him. And that is true. I don't care what industry you are in. I don't care what industry you are in. I don't care if you are an accountant. I don't care if you're a teacher. I don't care if you're a chef, a congressman, whatever. There's the world's reason that you do it. And then there's Jesus stepping in and saying, no, I'm going to change that reason.
Amen.
Your calling is not what you do. Your calling is why you do it. The next verse. The next words are, at once they left their nets and followed Him. And this is the last verse. If you want to find your calling, that means you have to be willing to step into the unknown. In the ancient culture that Jesus was living in, these guys would have known pretty much from the time they were small children that they were going to be fishermen. And this is what they've done every day. Because that's what you're just supposed to do. So to drop their nets and leave was a huge thing. And it meant stepping into something they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. You see, you have to be willing, if you want to find your calling, you have to be willing to drop your nets and empty your hands so that you're ready to receive whatever God is going to give you. And I guarantee you that He will blow your mind. Because you'll see that while you were just doing something, not only was God about to call you to the thing, but God was actually preparing you for the thing while you thought you were just doing something. Does that make any sense to anyone?
Amen.
I'm about to elaborate on it, so if it doesn't, you're about to catch up. You'll remember King David from the Old Testament, okay? You all take Old Testament surveys, some of you, yeah? I talked to Dean earlier, so I know he'd take it. Or New Testament survey. But King David, he wasn't always King David. He started as a shepherd boy, right? And you see, David thought he was just protecting sheep. That was something. I protect sheep. But while he was doing something, protecting sheep, God was actually preparing him for the thing, which was to kill a giant and become the king of Israel. You see, Peter thought that he was just gathering fish. But really, God was preparing him to be able to gather souls. I thought that I was just yelling stories at my mom. But actually, God was preparing me to write books about Him. That's right! I thought that I was creating curriculum for a small group that was going to fail after 4 weeks. But in actuality, God was teaching me how to get into His Word and how to write sermons and how to create videos that were going to speak to over 6 million viewers. And I'm not saying that so I can be like, oh, look at these videos I made. I'm saying it because I was the failure, and God turned that failure into an amazing success for His kingdom. Yes, and that is what calling is. It's allowing God to change it. Here's another one. You thought that you were just getting a credit checked off. You were just doing something to get the credit checked off. But someone in this room tonight didn't know that they were showing up here actually because God was about to call you to the thing that He wants you to do in your life. When we step into the unknown, we discover how God takes our something and turns it into the thing. Now, I promised you we were going to go back to that, come follow me, and we are real quick. In verse 19, Jesus says, come follow me. And that's His invitation. And you notice something really interesting about this invitation. It's not, get everything figured out, and then come follow me. He doesn't say, find your purpose, and then come follow me. What Jesus says, he says, come follow me, and I will show you your purpose. You see, because your calling, it's not a destination. Your calling is a journey that you go on every single day. And the road twists, and the road bends, and you figure it out because you're following the one who said, come, follow me.
It's not about a building. It's about the builder and the kingdom he's bringing. It's not about controlling you. It's about setting you free. It's not about puffing you up with facts. It's about encouraging you with faith.